It all started with a simple gym membership. I never thought a decision to get in shape would end up turning my entire world upside down. I was just a regular woman, married, routine-filled, and honestly, a little bored. My husband worked long hours, often away on business trips, and I spent most of my time alone, just going through the motions. When I joined the gym, it was supposed to be something for myself. A fresh start. A bit of excitement. And that's when I met him. He wasn't like the other trainers, he didn't come off as pushy or fake. He was calm, attentive, and genuinely listened. He remembered the small things, like how I took my coffee from the vending machine or which songs helped me push through my last set. At first, it was innocent. We talked in between workouts, exchanged casual jokes, and sometimes shared personal stories. I thought of him as just my gym trainer, nothing more. But little moments started to blur the line. He complimented my progress, looked at me just a second longer than needed, and made me feel seen. And that's something I hadn't felt in a long time. I brushed it off, thinking maybe I was just imagining it. After all, I was married. And he was just doing his job. But then one day, when my husband was away for a conference, everything changed. It was supposed to be a normal rest day. I had casually mentioned feeling sore from the last session, and without thinking much, he offered to drop by with some stretching bands and help me loosen up my back. "It won't take more than 10 minutes, he said. I hesitated for a moment, but then I agreed. I told myself it was just fitness-related. Just like any other session. But deep down, something felt different. When he arrived, everything felt too quiet. Too still. The way he looked at me wasn't how trainers look at clients anymore. The air between us was heavier than before, filled with unspoken tension. I felt nervous but also curious. There was a part of me, one I hadn't felt in years, that was waking up. A part that craved attention. Connection. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about fitness anymore. That evening, something happened that changed everything, not just in my marriage, but in how I saw myself. It was a moment that I've replayed in my head over and over again, trying to understand how things spiraled so quickly. Was it loneliness? Was it something missing in my relationship? Or was it just a choice I made in the heat of a vulnerable moment? Whatever it was, I knew nothing would be the same after that night. And the worst part? I didn't know if I regretted it. Not yet. What happened next is something I never saw coming. The next morning, everything felt different. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the same coffee mug I used every day, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. The house was quiet, just like always when my husband was away, but now, the silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. I kept thinking about the look in my trainer's eyes before he left. There was no goodbye, no promises, no guilt. Just an unspoken understanding that something had changed between us. As the day went on, I tried to carry on normally. I answered emails, folded laundry, and even scrolled through social media pretending like nothing had happened. But my mind kept drifting back. Was it just a mistake? Or was it something I had been needing without even realizing it? My husband called around noon, his voice cheerful and distracted as he spoke about work. I listened, nodded, even laughed in the right places. But deep down, I felt like I was floating outside my own life. It wasn't just about that one night. It was everything that led up to it, the loneliness, the growing emotional gap between me and my husband, the way I had slowly stopped recognizing myself. For months, I had buried my feelings, convincing myself that this was normal. That marriages go through phases. That I was just tired. But now, someone else had noticed me. And not just noticed, he made me feel alive again. I didn't know what he was thinking now. Would he pretend nothing happened? Would he distance himself? Or worse, would he act like it meant something more? My heart was tangled in questions I wasn't ready to answer. And just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, he messaged me. His message was simple: hope you're okay. Yesterday felt intense. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. My fingers hovered above the keyboard, unsure of what to say. A part of me wanted to ignore it, to pretend it never happened. But another part, the one I had been trying to silence for years, wanted to keep that connection alive. I ended up replying with just a yeah, same, and that small text felt like opening a door I wasn't ready to walk through. The days that followed were filled with confusion. At the gym, things felt off. We still talked, still trained, but now there was a current between us that couldn't be ignored. Every touch, every glance held weight. I found myself checking his schedule, hoping our paths would cross. And yet, I hated the feeling. I wasn't this person. I was married. I had a life, a routine, a man who loved me, even if he didn't show it like he used to. That's when the real conflict began, not just between me and him, but inside myself. I started pulling away from my husband. Little things, like avoiding eye contact, skipping dinner together, or pretending to be too tired to talk. He noticed. He asked if I was okay, and I always said yes. But I knew he felt it, something had shifted. Meanwhile, something else was stirring in the background. My best friend, Leah, had started asking questions. She saw the way I glanced at my phone, the excuses I made. We'd always shared everything, but now I was hiding this huge secret from her. She didn't say much at first, just raised an eyebrow and let things slide. But I knew she was watching, and that made everything even more complicated. The worst part? I wasn't sure who I was becoming. It all started unraveling faster than I expected. One night, my husband came home earlier than planned, his flight was moved up, and he decided to surprise me. I heard the front door click open just as I was finishing a text I never should have written. It was meant for my trainer. Something I knew crossed a line. My hands shook as I quickly locked my phone and tried to act normal. But something in his eyes told me he sensed the shift right away. That entire evening felt like walking a tightrope. Every word, every movement felt like it could tip everything over. He kept looking at me, really looking, like he was searching for something behind my eyes. And I couldn't meet his gaze without guilt burning through my chest. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed twice in my pocket. I didn't dare check it. The next morning, Leah showed up unannounced. She sat on my couch with a look I hadn't seen before, concern mixed with disappointment. She didn't ask. She just said, "You need to stop before this gets out of control." I wanted to break down right there, confess everything, tell her I was confused, lost, lonely. But the words got stuck. I just nodded, even though inside, I didn't know what I wanted anymore. Later that day, as I walked into the gym, I felt this tightness in my chest. He was already there, waiting, and for the first time, he looked nervous. Before I could say anything, he leaned in close and whispered, "We need to talk. Somewhere private." My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear the music around us. I didn't know if this conversation would bring clarity, or completely destroy what was left of my world. I followed him outside, heart racing, trying not to look over my shoulder in case someone saw us. We stood behind the gym, where the noise of weights and treadmills faded into silence. He looked serious, different from the charming, easygoing trainer I thought I knew. And then, he said something I wasn't prepared for. "I think your husband knows," he whispered. I froze. What? I saw him here, last week. He was watching from the upper floor near the cardio section. I didn't think much of it at first, but then he looked right at me. And not like a stranger. Like he knew. My throat went dry. I tried to remember if my husband had mentioned coming by. He hadn't. Not once. My mind spun with possibilities. Had he been following me? Was Leah covering for him all along? I couldn't breathe. Suddenly, everything felt like it was caving in. "Why didn't you tell me before?" I asked, my voice barely audible. Because I wasn't sure. But now, with how weird things are getting, I think you should be careful. As I tried to process his words, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from an unknown number. I know what's going on. We'll talk soon. I stared at the screen, my hands trembling. That wasn't from my husband. It wasn't from Leah. And it definitely wasn't from my trainer. Someone else knew. My head spun. What had started as a quiet, emotional drift away from my marriage had now turned into something bigger. More dangerous. The walls were closing in from all sides. My marriage, my friendships, even my own identity felt like they were unraveling. I looked at him, panic in my eyes. I think I'm being watched. And he didn't deny it. He just said, then we need to figure out who. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound outside felt suspicious, every shadow in the hallway looked darker than usual. My husband acted normal, too normal. He asked about dinner, joked about the neighbors, even kissed my forehead like nothing was wrong. But the message from the unknown number haunted me. Who knew? And what were they planning to do with that knowledge? The next morning, I finally confronted him. My voice trembled as I asked, "Were you at the gym last week?" He looked up slowly from his coffee and just nodded. No lies, no excuses. Just quiet confirmation. I saw the way he looked at you, he said. And I didn't need to ask questions. I already knew something had changed between us long before that. I stood there stunned, unsure what he would say next. But then, to my surprise, he didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He just looked tired. You were slipping away from me, and I let it happen, he said softly. But I never thought it would get this far. Tears filled my eyes. I expected anger, maybe even threats, but instead I was met with something worse, disappointment. A kind I didn't know how to fix. Just as I was about to speak, my phone buzzed again. Another message from the same unknown number. I warned you. Now everyone will know. Attached was a photo, me and my trainer standing too close, behind the gym, heads bent together. The exact moment we thought we were safe. My husband saw it, too. His eyes didn't leave the screen. Before I could explain, he held up his hand and said, "This isn't about him anymore. Someone is trying to break us both." Then came the real twist. Later that day, Leah called. Her voice was shaky. "I need to tell you something," she said. "Your trainer, he used to train my cousin. He did the same thing to her. Got close, crossed boundaries, and when she tried to end it, he blackmailed her." My chest tightened. "What are you saying?" "I think you were never the only one." In that moment, the story shifted again. Maybe I wasn't just caught in a failing marriage. Maybe I was pulled into something far more manipulative than I ever imagined. My mind was spinning. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding the phone, Leah's words echoing in my ears. Everything started making sense, the way he acted so confident, how he always knew the right things to say, and how he pushed boundaries without making it seem obvious. I wasn't special to him. I was just another woman in a pattern he had repeated before. That same evening, I made a decision. I showed my husband everything, the texts, the photo, even Leah's message. I didn't try to justify what had happened. I just laid it all out and let the silence fill the room. He didn't say much, but this time, his silence felt different. Not cold. Just real. Like he was also processing how far we both had drifted from each other without realizing it. The next day, I went to the gym and ended the sessions immediately. I didn't explain, I didn't argue. I just walked away. A week later, Leah helped me connect with her cousin, and the three of us reported the trainer together. Turns out, there were more women with similar stories. What I thought was an emotional connection was just a calculated move he had done before. He wasn't just crossing lines, he was playing with people's lives. As for my marriage, things didn't magically heal overnight. But for the first time in a long while, we talked. Really talked. About everything. About the loneliness. About the silence. About how we had stopped showing up for each other. We decided to start again, from the beginning, not because of guilt, but because there was still something worth saving. I learned that emotional affairs can be just as damaging as physical ones. That manipulation can wear a friendly face. And that when something feels off in your heart, ignoring it only makes the fall harder. Infidelity isn't always loud. Sometimes, it starts quietly, in the cracks of routine, in moments of weakness, in the silence between two people who once loved each other. But truth always finds a way out. And when it does, you have a choice, to let it destroy you, or to let it guide you back to what really matters. This was more than just a story about betrayal. It was a reminder of how easy it is to lose yourself, and how brave it is to find your way back. 5.